Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. In today's webinar, Andry Rocha, Principal Solutions Manager, demonstrates the basic principles for optimal dashboard design and shows us how a dashboard that simply displays accurate numbers is transformed into one that informs and provides actionable insight using Oracle's Business Intelligence Cloud service. Andy?
Thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. As Joey mentioned, we're going to be talking mostly about dashboard designing and why it's important. And this is a short webinar. We try to keep it within 30 minutes, so I will try and jump right into it. So just an agenda for what we're going to cover in this 30 minutes. First, I'm going to talk about the day in the life of a business analyst or an end user who needs to monitor their business, or who uses data rather to monitor their business. We're also going to talk about why dashboard design is important. We're going to talk a little bit about Slack, and Slack is not what we do when we are lazy. We're going to talk about the company Slack. And lastly, we're going to talk about some of the things we should pay attention to when designing dashboards and how we maybe can address a few of them. So let's start with this day in the life. So if you're anything like me, you wake up and you roll over to your side and you grab your phone or your tablet to see possibly how your day is going to go, right? So I usually use my iPhone to check my email, to see what my schedule looks like for the day. Maybe somebody sent me a message while I was asleep, and I check on these things before I start my day. I enjoy doing that, not because I enjoy starting working right away, but mostly because my iPad or my iPhone, they're devices that I enjoy touching and using. They not only accomplish my tasks that I need to accomplish, but I also actually enjoy interacting with them. And then maybe for you, this looks nothing like my life now, but for you, maybe after you do that, you go downstairs to your kitchen and you have a beautiful, bright, well-lit kitchen where everything is not only functional but beautiful. That's where you sit to eat your breakfast and maybe send out some emails while you do it, but you're in a very functional, beautiful, enjoyable space that you not only get to accomplish something, in this case eating breakfast, but also enjoy the process. Then you get in your car. You get in your car to drive to the office. Your car not only will get you to the office, but possibly help you enjoy doing that. The way the nice leather feels on the steering wheel, and how the dashboard is just in the right place. It gives you just the right information. The console is beautiful, and everything is in the right place, and it's tight together. The colors make sense, not too bright, not too subtle. The seat is very comfortable. Just everything about it, all the experience is something that, even if you have to be in traffic for a while, something that possibly you can enjoy while you're doing it. Then you get to the office, and you're lucky enough to work at a very cool organization that built a very cool office for you. No clutter. You have everything you need there, but it's an open space that feels big, that you can collaborate with your peers, but also have privacy when needed. You get great views. You have everything at your fingertips. Nothing too cluttered, nothing too much. Just simple enough, but useful enough for you to accomplish everything you need to accomplish during your day, but also not dread being in a dungeon type of office all day. And then when you open your laptop and you go to check your dashboard, this is the kind of thing you see, right? So, and by the way, I didn't make this up. This is something, a real dashboard that I found. So what am I trying to say here? We, in our personal lives today, we live in a world where things are made not only to perform a task and to be functional, but also to be enjoyable. I drove for many years after I graduated from college. I drove a very old car that for literally 20 years I drove that car. And in the beginning it was a nice car, it was fun, but as it got older and I got cheaper, I wouldn't buy a new car, so I kept driving this old beat up car. And it got me to places, but there was no enjoyment in getting anywhere. It was just that tool, that car, was there just to perform a task. But if you look at the pictures we saw of this car a few slides ago, that car not only performs the task, but also maybe was designed to make me enjoy performing that task. So our personal lives are full of examples like that. The iPhone and the iPad are a great example of that. Nice cars are an example of that. Nice homes are an example of that. And beautiful offices are also an example of that. Like companies now are starting to think about, do our employees actually enjoy being here? Because if they do, they're gonna come more often and stay longer, right? So our personal lives are full of those examples, but I think that in our professional lives, and if I'm bringing it to our topic here, when we're talking about designing software applications or specifically reporting and dashboarding applications, we historically have not given that enough importance. I'm a data guy by nature, so obviously the numbers being correct is the most important thing. Performance also is very important. You don't want your users to sit there for 30 minutes waiting for a report to show up. But something that I think is important these days that we often overlook is design. And why do I think that design is important? And I'll try to explain this a little more here in a second. But if I were to summarize this into one word, it's something that I call stickiness. And what I mean by that is the chance or lack thereof that your users, when they want to interact with your applications, in our case with your dashboards or reports, the chance that they could come back tomorrow to use that again. Let's go back to our personal lives, right? The iPhone, when it came out, possibly wasn't even the best phone out there. It had a lot of new things, and the design was completely revolutionary. But I think the reason it became so popular, in my opinion, is because people were using it not only to make calls, but they were pulling them out of their pockets because they enjoyed them. The fact that folks enjoyed interacting with that device made them use them more often. I think, again, coming back to dashboarding and reporting and why design is important, I think if we build applications that not only the data is correct and it performs well, but that possibly folks like to look at and they almost enjoy working with, the chance of them coming back tomorrow and using it again is a little higher than if they dread using that. It doesn't matter how accurate our data warehouse is, let's say, and how fast our queries perform. If users don't use it, our project fails, right? The measuring stick of a successful data project is usage. And I think that if we pay attention to design and pay attention to, and be thoughtful, I guess, of what we're presenting to users beyond just the data and performance, our chance of generating stickiness is higher than if we didn't pay attention to it. And I mentioned Slack. So let me tell a little bit about Slack, the Slack story. But before that, for those of you that haven't heard of Slack, Slack is a business instant messaging application. There is nothing revolutionary about Slack. If you have worked with Link or Skype for Business or any of the other business IM applications that are very common in most organizations today, Slack is just a competitor to those. However, everyone who's ever used Slack loves it more than any other application they've ever used before. And if you ask one of those folks, why do you like Slack better? A lot of times they can't even explain it to you because it doesn't have any better, the features are not better, the functionality is not better, but there's something about Slack that makes people love it and makes people want to use it and not want to leave it. Some numbers here on the screen about Slack, by the way. Slack was released in February of 2014. After the first month, they had 15,000 daily active users. A year later, February of 2015, 500,000 daily active users. 2 years after that, September of last year, 6 million daily active users. By all means, by all accounts, Slack is the fastest growing business application of all time. And in that last sentence there, that last bullet point, I think really struck me, because if you think about all the different business applications that we use, right, that have been around for decades, Excel, Word, Adobe, email, right? To think that this application Slack has grown faster than any of those, I think it's remarkable, and we should pay attention to it, because they're doing something that a lot of us they're doing something right that a lot of us are possibly not considering. And I think a great reflection of this is this quote by Stuart Butterfield, who is Slack's CEO, and I'm going to read it for you guys. It says, "It is especially important for us to build a beautiful, elegant, and considerate piece of software. Every bit of grace, refinement, and thoughtfulness on our part will pull people along. Every petty irritation will soften and give them the impression that it is not worth it." By the way, the bold words here are mine. This was not part of Butterfield's memo to his employees, but this sentence came from a memo that he sent to his employees 2 weeks before they released Slack. So in February or January, I guess, of 2014, he sent this out. I think that's remarkable, because it will be easy for them to now, knowing how successful they've been and how fast they're growing, to say that this thoughtfulness and was part of what made them successful. But he sent this to his employees before he even knew if they were going to be successful or not. But I think it was prophetic almost, in a way, because I believe that the very reason why they've been so successful and growing so fast is this considerate thoughtfulness that they're giving to their application. Again, Slack doesn't have better features than any other IM application. It doesn't have better functionality. It is just beautiful and elegant and thoughtful, something that it's enjoyable to interact with, and something, most importantly, that tries to avoid irritation. There is nothing more than what you need. There's also exactly what you need. You don't get less than what you need either. It is right on the right spot. Things are in the right place. The colors are right. They limit the amount of clicks you need to perform to finish a task. So everything about it, there was a lot of thought put into it, and I think that has a direct correlation with their growth and their success. Again, coming back to our topic, I think as data professionals and in this case report developers and dashboard developers, we need to have the same thoughtfulness that Slack developers had when putting together their application. I'm not saying design is the most important thing. Obviously, if the numbers are wrong, it doesn't matter if your application is beautiful or not. But I think we're living in a time now where we are fighting for our users' attention, not only from everything else that goes around, but also from other applications, right? In our case, we're going to be looking at Oracle applications here, most specifically BICS, BI Cloud Service, but there are several other tools out there that perform the same kind of tasks, right? There are a lot of dashboarding tools out, so our users have a lot of options. And in order to keep their attention, to keep them coming back to what we're doing, we need to use every tool on our belt. So design is definitely something we should be considering and using. So how do we do it? What are the things that we should think about when designing these dashboards and these reports with thoughtfulness and with our end users experience in mind? There are several things, but I think I narrowed it down to 3 things that I think are the most important. So I'll talk through each of them here in a few minutes. So first thing I want to talk about is how we structure the information, how we structure the items in our screen, if you will. For those of us that grew up in the Western world, that read from left to right and top to bottom, studies have shown that our attention, when we look at a screen or a piece of paper or a page or a canvas of some sort, our attention always goes to the top left corner of the screen first. The reason that this is important for us to know is that when we're designing a dashboard page, in our case, we should think about putting the most important pieces of information to the left of the screen and on the top of the screen. So in my case, in the mock-up that I have here on the right, I have my parameters or my prompts on the left top corner of the screen. And when I move over to the actual reports on the dashboard, the most important and the higher level summarized reports are on the top. And as I move my eyesight down towards the bottom of the screen, I get more detail. So I don't want to present the users with the most detailed information right away. If I'm giving my user a 1,000 record report right out of the gate, the whole idea, the whole concept of a dashboard is destroyed there, right? That's not what a dashboard is for. A dashboard is to give them high-level information, and if they want to get more details about anything that they're seeing on the screen, they can click and drill, or they can scroll down and get more details. And that's the idea here, is being thoughtful about how we organize things on the screen in a way that intuitively makes sense for the users to look at the most important things first and scroll or go down or scroll to the right or scroll down for the things that are not as important right out of the beginning. Secondly, one thing that I think from dashboards that I see at our clients and online when I watch webinars or presentations of any sort, is the use of color. I think a lot of times we don't give enough thought to the use of color. Studies have shown that bright, unnatural colors usually make people feel alarmed. That when you see something that's super bright, it almost makes you a little apprehensive. Your blood pressure goes up a little bit. So, in the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, soft colors, pastel colors, make us feel calm. I think this is important to know because unless you're trying to communicate a very alarming event to your users, you should steer away from colors that make them feel alarmed. So I like bright colors. I like to wear bright clothes, but I'm not going to use bright pink in my dashboards because if I do, that's going to call so much attention of my users that two things. One, like I said, they're going to feel alarmed, but also it could cause them to ignore something else important that's on the screen. On the other hand, we need to try to stick with soft colors that don't alarm and don't cause any irritation, I guess, when the users are looking at our dashboards multiple times a day, every day of the week, right? Also, another thing about colors that I would like to mention is just that we need to be consistent with it. First of all, if you're displaying one KPI for different attributes, in my case here on the left-hand side, I have the net margin KPI by my providers, but all those bars are displaying net margin, the same measure. Use the same color, be consistent. That way the users know that they're looking at the same measure, just comparing it against providers. If I use a different color for each bar, unless they really pay attention and look at the legends, which you have multiple legends, right? Because multiple colors generate multiple legends. They may think that they're looking at different metrics or different KPIs. It can be a little confusing, so just be consistent. On the other hand, if you have more than one measure, of course, like we have on the right-hand side, use different colors, but also be consistent. On the left-hand side, I use blue to represent net margin. And on the right-hand side, I stuck with the same blue to represent net margin. If you create 17 different visualizations in 5 different dashboard pages, and net margin shows up in 10 of those, use the same color to represent the same measure. Because that way you're going to be training your user to know that next time when you create a new dashboard page, as soon as they see a blue bar, they're going to know, or blue pie, or a blue radar, whatever it is, a blue gauge, they're going to know that they're looking at that same metric there. The user's attention from the thing that's important. And to communicate this, I'm actually going to switch out of my PowerPoint here. I'm going to switch to actually a report that I have built here on BICS, on Oracle's BI Cloud Service dashboarding. And I'm going to go through the process of showing you guys, one, what I think are the issues with this report when I first look at it, and two, also demonstrate how easy it is to fix, how easy it is to make this better just by giving a little bit of thought. A couple of things before I go through that though. One is, like I said, I'm using Oracle's BI Cloud Service tool here, but the same principles apply to any tool. If you use Tableau or Click or Power BI or whatever you're using, I'm using this tool just because it's the one that I'm most comfortable with, but I think the same principles apply. Secondly, I did not manipulate this report in any way to make it look worse. This is the way the report came out by default from the tool just after I created it. So, and by the way, I think this is something that every tool has issues like this, that out of the box, without us giving some thought, sometimes the default options that these tools give us are not the ideal ones. So let me point out a few things here, guys, that I think hopefully you guys will agree with me that are issues with the report. First of all, there's a lot of redundancy in terms of some of the objects here. I have net patient revenue and net margin displayed up here, so the name of my measures. I have it again here in the legend. I have it down here as a label. So redundant information on the screen. Also, there's some information that may not be redundant, but I think it's unnecessary. For example, when I look at this list here, if I know my data well and I know my business well, I should know that these are my providers. These are provider names. So I probably don't need to have a label here that tells me that these are my providers. Let me give another example. If instead of the providers, this list says January, February, March, all the way through December, I probably would not need a label here that said month. Anybody over the age of 5 or 6, I guess, would know that January is a month. So I don't need to put that label here. Just like if I know my business well, I don't need to put a label telling me that these are provider names. I think the canvas, the spacing of the canvas is also poorly used. I have the legend here that only has a couple lines, taking a lot of space to the right on my graph, and because of that, the graph is squished a little bit. I could change that. These grid lines, I think they are just unnecessary pixels on the screen. The point of a report like this, a graph like this, is not to give me exact numbers, but to give me an idea of how big this bar is. And by the way, if I need the exact number, I can just put my cursor there and see what the number is. Too many zeros here. There's no abbreviation with these numbers. And also the sorting. I think I like it, and I think most people like to see when you're looking at KPIs like this, this should be sorted not in alphabetical order like we have, but maybe from large to small, from high to low. And so I think this report can be sorted a little better. So let me go through the process of fixing this. You guys will see that in less than a minute, we can fix all this problem, all these issues. And the time that we need to invest in it is really small. We just need to give it some thought and pay attention to this thing to give our users a much better experience. So let me go into edit mode here for this report, and we'll make a few modifications to maybe make this look a little better. And hopefully at the end, you guys will agree with me that this in fact does look better. So let me go to edit this report. First thing I'm going to see is move my legend to the top. That will help my graph occupy most of my canvas and occupy my space better. I'm going to remove the animation from my graph. This is just a personal preference. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but while I'm here, I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to now remove my grid lines. I don't like I said, grid lines. I don't think they're necessary for this type of report, so I'm going to remove all the unnecessary pixels from the screen. I'm going to get rid of all those labels, all that redundant, useless information doesn't need to be on the screen. I don't need to tell my users that those are my providers. They know because they know the business. And also, I'm going to abbreviate those numbers. There were very big numbers, millions and millions of dollars. I don't need to have all those zeros show up on the screen. It will be much cleaner and much nicer if I can abbreviate those. So just by spending a few seconds in there, you guys see that there's already a lot of difference. The legend is up here, so the graph can stretch out a little more. These numbers don't have tons of zeros anymore. The one thing I'm still missing is the sorting, so I'm going to take care of that as well. Let me switch to my criteria. I'm going to sort by my in descending order. by my net patient revenue first, and then by my net margin. And I'm going to look at my results. So now you guys see my numbers are abbreviated. My graph is sorted in a much nicer way to read it. My legend occupies less space on the screen. The grid lines are gone, so they don't get, I don't need to focus on them anymore. I can now just focus on the things that are important. And just for the sake of comparison, I'm going to return to my PowerPoint so we can see the before and after together. So this is how my graph looked when we started, and this is how it looked when we ended. And this whole process here, this whole transformation took a few seconds, as you guys saw. So the time investment is small, but I think if we just give it some thought, we can provide our users an experience that's much better than the default, if you will, and increasing our chance of creating that stickiness that will keep our users coming back. I realize that I only have only a few minutes left, so I'm going to switch back to Joey and open maybe for some questions, and also to talk to you guys about our upcoming webinars.
Thanks, Andy.
Joey?
Yep, any questions can be submitted right now during these last couple of minutes. We can respond here and now, or email any questions to info@ranzal.com and we'll provide a response. Also, a recording of this webinar will be available on our website shortly, where you may also find a number of previous webinars posted. We hope that you gain insight from today's webinar. Please visit our website to learn about and register for upcoming webinars, and follow us on social media to get alerts about upcoming events, training, and webinars. Our upcoming webinar on April 12th explores how the latest machine learning and advanced analytics technologies are incorporated as foundational services to Oracle Analytics Cloud. And we'll walk the audience through dynamic dashboard creation within data visualization. Attend this webinar to discover how to uncover the insights hidden in your data with rich interactive visuals enriched with machine learning and artificial intelligence. You can register for this and other upcoming webinars by visiting our website. Thank you to our audience for joining us, and thanks to Andy for sharing your knowledge and expertise during this presentation. This concludes today's webinar.